Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Public Utility Advisory Board meeting for Thursday, August 21st, 2025. And I'll let Christina call roll, please.
Brad Chance.
Here.
Greg McGee. Steve McLucky. Terry Martell.
Can you hear us, Terry?
Nope, cannot.
Okay, we're calling the roll. Terry Martell.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay,
Terry
So-
Martell.
I'm here.
All right.
Michael Talcott.
She's on drugs, but
Here.
she's here.
Les Boat.
Yeah,
Here. All right, so we do have a quorum, which is a good thing. I see that Greg McGee and Mr. McLucky, Steve McLucky, are out of town today. Terry's calling in, so we do have a quorum. So let's go through the approval of the minutes on the July 10th meeting. Anybody have any changes or comments on it? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right,
Okay, will you second her motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on it? Call the roll, please, Christina.
Brad Chance.
Yes.
Terry Martell.
Yes,
Michael Talcott.
Yes.
Les Boatwright.
Yes, those have been approved. Okay, so now we're down to the presentation on the IPO customer charge adjustment.
So I'm Joe Hagenduffer, the Director of Independence Power and Light. Wanted to cover today recommendations from staff. We've been looking at finances for a long time, and I now have a finance manager, which has come on board and help us kind of group that together and continue to look at what our current and future financial standings are and make some recommendations for customer charge. Once I can get there. Okay. Am I good? Apologize. We're trying to share it with the online members real quick so we all can view it. Just share the. Okay, can everybody see it now?
Yes?
Excellent. So we're going to go through a couple of things. We'll talk about past cost of service studies and how we got where we are currently, revenue and expense projections, look at kind of our unrestricted cash, those projections, then the recommendations and how those can impact customer bills, and then we will even do a local rate comparison on how that looks compared to neighboring utilities. So if we look back in the past, we've had back in the early 2000s, around 2009 to 2012, I believe we had 5 years of rate increases. At that point, we did not have any further rate increases. During COVID times, we had a 6% rate reduction, and that has been removed from the bill. So currently, IPL stands at the rates that were effective back in 2012. As everybody knows, cost of living, cost of materials, cost of everything has continued to increase, and so we needed to look at where we are going to be for projections moving forward. In 2019, we had Burns and McDonnell do a cost of service study along with the rates. And at that point in time, they recommended a $19.62 customer charge. We had that study updated in 2022, and at that point in time, they recommended a $28.69 customer charge. This is for residential rates, so I want to make sure to point that out, and I'll talk about the different rates in a little bit. But this is purely residential rates, and we currently sit at a $10 customer charge. So I really want to talk real fast about what's the difference between the customer charge and my rate of energy, and what do those different things do. So the customer charge really pays for fixed costs that are within the utility,
Go lay down.
not the variable.
Go lay
costs.
down.
Not the variable costs. Okay. I will in just a minute, for sure. So the customer charge is a flat charge that helps try to cover the fixed costs of running the utility. So if your house uses 1,000 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts within a month, you are effectively going to have the same equipment to serve you. I'm going to have the same equipment. We're going to have transformers, lines, trucks, and the people to serve that load. Where your variable cost comes in is how much energy you use and how we produce that and supply it to you. So that's the purpose of a customer charge, is for everybody to be kind of on a level playing field for, hey, we have to supply the same thing for everybody to be able to hook up to our utility and get the services that we provide. Does that make sense? And I'm open for questions throughout at any point in time. So this graph here is really starting to look at kind of our capital projections along with our O&M projections and how they look towards our revenues. And there's a couple of different graphs to look at this in a few different ways. The very top line is capital, O&M, basically all expenses to operate the utility. The dotted line kind of in the middle is our O&M costs, so that would be capital minus, or all cost minus the big capital projects. And then we have a few lines down below that are drivers. And what we are requesting, the very bottom blue line, is if we do nothing today. And then you have kind of a red line and a gray line. And I apologize that there's so many lines, but the red line and the gray line are really what we're asking to do to get us closer to our O&M costs. So those are going to be the recommendations at the end of how we adjust the customer charge to be able to make up for that difference. And the reason there's two is originally we had talked about a recommendation for doing 2-year adjustments to the customer charge, one at the beginning of 2026 and then another one at the beginning of 2027. Since then, we've kind of discussed that and talked about it, and with the industry changing as quick as it is, we would like to make a recommendation for 1 year right now, and then next year we're going to commit to refreshing all the financial models, the customer service, study costs, and then come back maybe with another recommendation next year. Also, we have a lot of moving parts in the city with some possible economic development and how is that going to impact the utility, and we just want to be able to take that all into account. Instead of making a multi-year request, we'll just do a single-year request, and then we'll come back with those updated models and update any requests. So the second one kind of shows, if everybody in this room remembers DKMT and the studies that they talked about, they made a recommendation that you should take half of our capital because those capital long-term costs help everybody, not just the people in the present, that you should put those into debt service and cover those over a long period of time. So this model kind of shows the difference. So the very top first red line again is that first original model. And the second one shows that you kind of flatten that out and smooth those costs over a longer period of time. And then of course you have, and we only did it for the first 3 years, I believe. Because the first 3 years we modeled putting the big, huge capital projects into a debt service structure. And then the increased cost would be added to the capital. That's why it continues above that line. So you have debt service coverage for those. So any questions so far? All right, I know better than to ask twice. So where have we been? So this is a historical look. So the dark red on this chart is the O&M cost, and the light red is the capital cost. And this is what it looks like back from 2014 clear through present day. You can see, and then the blue line on top is where did we actually land as far as being above and below. There's a few kind of time ticket things pointed out here. One of those being some changes to our benefits program, which showed a big increase in revenues that year. And then, of course, there was the electrical rebate in 2021-22 fiscal year. And you can see where we're at as of today. So what does that do for the future? Well, from that last graph, I don't think it's any surprise that we're covering revenues over expenses right now, but we also have not been doing a lot of capital projects, right? We spent a couple years kind of discussing whether we were going to keep the utility, and we've kind of held off on a lot of big projects. And I think hopefully everybody in this room agrees if we're going to keep the utility and we're going to do the right things, now it's time to invest in the utility for its longevity, to keep the reliability up, and to move ourselves into a position to keep this utility operating well into the future. So the dark red, so once you hit that 2026, those are projections moving forward. O&M is at a straight about a 3% increase year over year. Is that right? I'm asking my finance manager. It's 1.5 overall.
1.5 for O&M,
That's right.
and then we assumed a 3% on the personnel portion.
On labor, that's right.
Yes.
It was 3% labor, 1.5%
Yes.
for the remainder of O&M. And then the capital projects are the ones that are included in our forecasting for the CIP program. So as you can see there, go ahead. Okay, any questions? So I think you guys have seen this graph before. We put it out a couple years ago, talking about where we sit with our unrestricted cash projections. So right now we sit above the target, which is good, but we've also we have not been doing some of the capital projects that are still on our books. So a lot of that money is not really there if we go ahead and execute those capital projects. You can look and see that it quickly goes below not only the target, but our also minimum target, which is 25 million, and goes down pretty quick. The other thing that you'll notice is the very bottom line is the do nothing, and the blue and red lines are kind of those projections that we asked.
I just want to make note, we just got the financials from City Finance today, and the reserve balance for 2025 is a little bit higher than we projected.
Okay.
So that will help elevate a little bit, and I can get an updated one, but.
But
that
we
was
also
an estimate.
have multiple capital projects on the books that we
Yes.
have not executed as of yet. So while that looks inflated, if those were in a capital project fund, we would probably be sitting somewhere, I'd say, between the minimum and the target. We definitely would not be above target. Any questions on that? So the request or the recommendation from staff, I guess, would be to adjust the customer service charge. Even though the recommendations were $19 and $26, we would request that we make a $5 incremental change to the customer charge starting January 1st. This is kind of your average customer electric bills and what that would look like. So it, on average, would be around a 3% change in the average person's bill. So we would go from a $10 to a $15 customer charge. So where do we sit with other utilities? I know that's a common question, especially with some of the comments we hear about IPL's prices. Evergy Metro and Evergy West, you can kind of see they're sitting around a $12 and $12.90 customer charge. But Evergy Metro's energy costs are quite a bit higher than ours, right? So they're at a little over 14 cents, and we sit at about 12.28. Evergy Missouri West, we kind of sit pretty close with them. We would then have a higher customer charge but lower energy rate. And Kansas City BPU has a pretty high customer charge of $26, but their energy is really low. Now, the one thing I want to point out with this is if you go to their website, it's really hard to kind of extract out of there. They have a whole lot of what I call riders. So there's an environmental rider, there's a demand side rider. They have several riders that add on to that, and I believe Evergy does as well. But we just wanted to be as transparent as we could. This is their base rate. I think those vary so much from year to year, month to month, that it would be hard for me to really pinpoint. But we did want to be transparent. Their customer charge is significantly higher than what ours is. So with that, the staff is recommending increasing the customer charges, and this is what we're recommending. So we're recommending a $5 increase to the residential rate. So while it's $10 today, it would be $15, and then an increase of $10 for all the other rates. So when you look at commercial and industrial, this would be their new customer charges per month. So 25, 50, and then 60 and 85 for the big industrial loads. And that is all the information I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about this.
Any questions? I think Mr. Talcott got a note that the sound's not coming through. It just came through?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I was talking into the mic pretty good. Maybe not.
Well, yeah, it wasn't on you. I think it was a technical issue.
Is everybody ready to start over? No, I'm just kidding.
Mr. Chair,
Because I'm not.
Yes,
there was an issue, but it is fixed now.
it is fixed now. Good. Okay, we want to make sure. Any questions on the stuff in the room? Yep.
I understand everything you said. I'm just concerned that, and I know that Evergy has their different things, the way they bill, but I'm still wondering if nothing else, optics are that we're increasing to 15 when they're only still under 13. And again, I understand what you're saying about the different billing. However, I still question going up that much.
Okay.
Keeping it more toward even the for-profit people. Again, because if nothing else, it's optics. People get on there and, well, this is this, and not everybody understands that. So, I don't know. That's just my concern.
Any other comments, questions? Well, I know in the past, we've talked about this, and we looked at doing the $10 increase, or we even talked about doing a $5 incremental after that.
Yes,
So we have talked about this before,
we have.
and
We
I know
talked
when you
about
looked
it
at it,
We talked about it after the update of the financial models in 2022, because I made a presentation very similar to this that was talking about ratcheting up that customer charge
Yep.
to get us closer to what the recommendations of the
Right.
studies said.
well, we were talking to DMKT too, we had talked about this customer charge and what we were gonna do. And, yeah, it would be nice to keep it closer to what, like, some of the investor owns are doing, the $12 customer charge, but then when you go to look at the energy cost, kind of balances that out, so. You know, it's a $5 increase, it's not a $15 increase right now, so. I'm comfortable with it, I don't really like it with the way the cost of everything's going up, but cost of everything's going up for, you know, everything we do, and we've got to be able to recover those costs, so. I mean, I support what you're going here for the $5 increase, I mean, that, and the other increases you've got.
Yeah, I was sensitive to the community, and I don't want to go straight to the 19 whatever or the 26, right? I mean,
Right.
I think we make small incremental changes to continue to meet the needs of the utility.
Well, I think it'll be interesting too, if we can update that, say 2026 or something, to kind of see what it compares to, like what it was in from 2022. So it's nice to have those previous studies done so we can kind of compare to it too. Anything?
One more. And part of why I say that, again, is because we're gonna be having more stuff. We're gonna be doing AMI. We're gonna be doing all these new things, and with those all come costs. So it may be $5 here, but once we get AMI up, people's bills are gonna naturally go up. And then at some point, there's gonna have to be a rate increase to pay for the AMI. So again, those are my concerns.
Can I gently disagree with the statement? I think the statement of an assumption that AMI is just gonna automatically increase your bill is not an accurate statement.
Well, with some people it will.
I don't disagree with that statement, that some people will see an increase, but I think some people will be able to control their usage and see it, and I think it'll be extremely better, that's a really good English. I think it'll be extremely more transparent in how we provide the service and be able to give people the power to actually control their bills better.
What I see now are people complaining they don't understand why their bill went up, but with AMI, they'll be able to look at that and say, on this date, it really spiked. What was I doing on that date? They don't really equate to that they just got back from vacation, they flipped the air conditioner, colder, they went and did a whole bunch of laundry. That stuff is just routine life, and they just don't think about it. So are you looking for a recommendation then from us today?
I would ask for a recommendation. So the future plans is for me to present this same presentation at a study council this coming Monday night to the city council. And then it would be followed up, I'm gonna say not immediately, but in the near future with an actual action item to council. So if you guys were to, I guess, bless it and give your recommendation, that would help me as well.
Okay. I don't know if Terry's sound is working or not. Does anybody know? Terry, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, so if we throw a motion out on the table then to support this customer charge increase, is that all you
We
need?
can vote.
I think that would be strong enough for me to at least be able to go to city council and say that it was supported by the
Okay.
PUAB.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we support it.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
We've got a second.
Second.
Christina, will you call the roll, please?
Aye.
Jerry Martell,
Yes.
Michael Talcott,
No.
Les Boatright.
Yes. So that recommendation passed, and it will go with you to council.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Now we're down to finance and admin, and any questions on the financial reports? I think I just saw you somewhere else.
I know. The good old FIFA World Cup.
Exactly.
Okay, if everyone wants to flip to the power and light page, I'll kind of walk through and highlight. Obviously, this is our year end, so this will kind of highlight kind of where we landed for 2024 going into 2025. Total operating revenues compared to budget was up $12.5 million. We can see that 12.58, which is up 108%. And then coming down to total operating revenues, we are up 7.6 million to budget, down to 94%. So I would like to see, obviously operating revenues going above and beyond, and total operating expenses being down. I'd also like to point out, if we come down to non-operating revenues, that our miscellaneous revenue was up tremendously for the year. Total variance to budget was 500,000, up 243%. And then that is all for the front page. If we flip to the back here, as Joe was kind of talking about, we do have a lot of capital projects that we have not executed yet. So we do have a lot of funds that are still have not been utilized. Original budget was 17 million. The amended was 31, and we only used 5.2 of that for this fiscal year. So we still have $26 million for capital projects going into 2025. And then on the back sheet from there, you'll see a list of all the capital projects that are currently going on and kind of where they're sitting in dollar amounts.
Okay,
Any questions on IPL?
I think so.
Going over to the water department, on the following page, water finished the year up, 594,000 above budget with revenues, so we're at 101%. And total operating expense was also down. You see, we had budgeted 36 million, we came in at 29, so there was operating expenses was down approximately 6.2 million, so it was 82%, which is great in comparison to total revenues. And then as well, we also see that miscellaneous revenue, not as much as IPL, but as far as percentage-wise, we'd budgeted around $15,000 and we came in at 88, so we had a 563% increase. So that is always good to see. If we flip to the back as well again, we will see that our original budget amount for capital projects was 9 million. The amended was 27 from all the rollovers from previous years, and they only used 3.2 of that. So we still have a lot of capital projects money sitting in water as well. And on that following back page, you'll see all the capital projects outlined along with the dollar amounts allocated to them. And then continuing on to sanitary sewer, total operating revenues was actually down just slightly. In all honesty, it's pretty flat. It was down about 30,000. But total operating expenses, on the other hand, was actually down roughly 1.6 million, which is always great to see. And then miscellaneous revenues also up as well there. And coming in for sewer, as far as capital projects as well, on that backside, amended amount was around 19 million. They used 5.9, so they have another 13 million in capital projects dollars still sitting out there. And on the following page, you'll have a list of those projects as well. So each IPL, sanitary, and water all have a decent amount of money sitting in their capital project funds, so they can continue to work on those. Any questions regarding the June financials?
Any questions? Doesn't sound like it, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike down there's got a question, right, Mike?
All right, no questions on the finances? All right, thank you. Municipal services?
Good afternoon. In keeping with the power and light conversation, if you recall at our last meeting, we had a presentation on the sanitary sewer rates. And we wanted to give you the month to think about it and see if this body had a recommendation to take forward to council. If you recall, there were two options presented. One probably 2 to 3% total higher than the other. And I believe that's still included in the packet. Should have looked.
Yeah, I don't think it's in here.
Okay. And in that, it showed with either of those options, similar to what Joe has just presented, where we would fall in relation to surrounding communities and similar utilities. Happy to answer any additional questions that you may have thought of since the last meeting, and then just was hopeful to have a recommendation from the board.
Remind me, there was two different options. Which one were you recommending?
Of course, we would recommend, from just an operational standpoint, the higher of the two. Just it lets us hit all of the goals quicker, and there's not the same availability or interest in that financing capital as it's been recommended to IPL, simply because of the consent decree work that was done several years ago, and the sanitary utility is actively paying off that almost 90 million in debt. So that's our regulatory compliance fee. It's $12 on every bill. So any of these financial reports, that debt service is all tied to that consent decree work. So because of that bonding amount that is already out there, our capacity to do that is different. So we continue to cash fund all of our CIP. So just that little bit of difference there.
Okay, so you're looking for a recommendation then on one of the options,
Yes.
probably being the higher of the two, just to pay off the debt service quicker.
we won't be able to expedite that unless we refinance those.
Okay.
But allows us to address our ongoing CIP quicker, and not, we're currently projected to go negative operating cost in 3 years. Obviously this staves that off, but
Okay.
understand either way, any increase is better than where we've been, which is flat over the last 5 years.
All right, I guess we're looking for a recommendation then from the body. Yeah, could you,
What are the two options?
You've got it up. I don't think it's in the back. We could throw this up on screen, if that's
That'd be
helpful.
oh yeah, that'd be great. That way everybody can see it. Well, we can verbally tell them too.
Technical assistance has arrived.
Technical support, trust us, we're here to help.
And while Rich gets that set up, just, I know everybody looks for a flat percentage of what is this. Again, similar to, wow, feedback. Similar to IPL's charges, ours is also broken up into a base charge, which covers all those fixed costs, and then a volumetric charge as well. So that percentage changes based on if you're looking at the fixed charge or the volumetric charge. That's why I continue to say option 1 and option 2, because it is broken out a little differently in each of those options. But this is, again, the higher of the two, and you can see. Oh,
No,
it
this is the lower of the two.
says option 1.
Okay, maybe I'm mixed up here.
Yeah, option 1's the higher, option 2's
one
the
is
lower.
higher, yes. So this is the higher of the two, yes.
So again, that base charge, which is called there the service charge, and then the volumetric. So you're looking at line 1 to see that increase across. And then for your average residential customer, you would be looking at line 9 for that volumetric piece. What you see there that say for the surcharges for the SIC codes and things like that, and the BOD and COD surcharges, those are for high strength wastewater streams. So think Unilever and things like that that are, or manufacturing facilities or things like that that would have non-residential, just a stronger waste stream that requires additional treatment. That's why those surcharges exist. So those would be specialized businesses, not residential.
So is this a fixed percentage each year increase?
I
Or
think
close?
it works out to that, yes. But again, some of it's in the service charge, the base charge, and some of it's in the volumetric rate. And then you can see that line 13, that's the regulatory compliance fee. It continues to stay flatline
$12.
because our annual debt service is roughly 6 million. So this is the amount. It started at $3 per month per account and has stair stepped up to 12, where it was always anticipated to flatline until the debts were paid off, which we're on track. We did, that debt was issued in 3 issuances, and one of them was refinanced to pay off early. The other 2 will carry out to 2042, unless they're also refinanced.
Okay.
So the $18
That's
is what
the
it's
base
going to?
That's our existing.
Okay.
Yep. So it would, in this instance, it would jump from 18 to 2016. And these are proposed to go into effect October 1. Normally, these changes go into effect July 1, but the findings weren't ready at the time, so.
And then the line 9, you said that was for commercial, or is that
The
for
line 9
residential?
is the volume charge for everyone. Anything else, the special surcharges are non-residential. Those are all commercial. I will say another thing that we talked about, and this is for a very small number of users citywide, but it comes up quite a bit, are septic customers. Currently, if a line is within X number of feet of a residence, whether they hook up or not, they pay both the base charge and the volume fee. And in some cases where it's not available, by ordinance, they would still pay that fee. So this reduces that to where if you're on septic, you wouldn't pay that volumetric fee, just the base charge. So again, a very, very small percentage of our customers, but something that comes up.
And then what's option 2?
So again, it jumped up to roughly $1. It goes up $1 less on the base charge side. And then you can see line 9, just a slower increase.
So you said that this one pretty much flatlines. It's not like it gives you the opportunity to.
It doesn't fund our ongoing CIP as quickly. And then, Rich, can you go to the slides that show with the options where we fall related to surrounding communities? And this. Yep, so the.
Right in the middle.
Yes. So the solid line is where we are today. And the green, the lower of those two green lines, the one more to the left, is under option 2. And the slightly higher one is option 1.
So option 1 allows us, gives us more to fund.
Funds capital
with-
quicker.
Right.
I will give you my pitch about being in the middle and why it's a good thing. Typically, if you are on the lower end of rates compared to your surrounding entities, typically you don't have that capital program in place and you're not spending the money to reinvest back into your system. Being in the middle is usually that solid middle ground of trying to operate efficiently, but also investing back in system. I know when things get high and people are looking at where do you cut, the capital projects is always that first go-to that people look at.
Well, we can put that off.
Right, and that's how you wind up in a consent decree, and we don't want another one.
Yeah.
So we very much have a vested interest in keeping those projects going.
Any other questions?
And then just as a reminder, also the second component of this versus option 1 versus option 2 was there was a recommendation from Burns and Mac, and something that's a new trend in this is that to also have just, rather than having this discussion every few years, just have an annual increase that's tied in some way to the cost of living
Index.
consumer price index. Yes, and that can be capped in some way as no higher than X%. That's
Right.
certainly a policy discussion that we would
Look
ask
at.
council to look at and see what their preference would be. But our hope would be to get a recommendation on option 1 and option 2, and whether the board would support the continued annual increases. So we can, the goal there, obviously, if you continue to have the smaller increases over time, you're not doing this to make up for 5 years of not having an increase at all and trying to play catch up.
Well, I'll throw a recommendation out there. We can discuss it, to do option 1 and to look at the annual fee increase. So we're not, having to keep going through this every few years and trying to play catch up.
I'm supportive of 1, but I'm not quite, I'm not quite ready to pull a trigger on an automatic annual. I think there's got to be some looking at it.
I think it was to look at it,
Oh,
basically.
100% agree. And
Oh,
that's all part of,
Maybe I
sorry.
didn't say that in my
That's-
recommendation.
what I was
No, that's poor
thinking, that it was
communication on
like
my part.
automatically-
Well, I didn't make that in the recommendation, but the recommendation would be to then take a look at that
Yes.
process.
Okay.
Yes, if,
I'm okay with that.
again, annual increases, all of that is looked at as part of budget process.
Mhm.
If there wasn't, if by some amazing stars aligned thing happens and we didn't have an increase, obviously not a need to put that on the customers. We haven't seen things trend cheaper. I keep hoping. But assuming that did happen, then yes, we would have that out to not add that, and it would be as needed.
And I want to be cognizant of the ratepayers, because I know we're not in this for charity. we can't do charity, but at the same time, and I'm gonna say it like I do every time, a third of the city is at poverty or below. And some people just can't absorb $5 here or $10 there. So that's why I said that.
No, absolutely, and I should have clarified that. This is something that we would look at as part of every budget. And again, every budget year, we go through and we pull this comparison every single year, and that's also part of just that sanity check of where are we, where are the surrounding communities, and what is everyone doing to keep costs contained.
So we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second. Christina, will you call roll, please?
Brad Chance,
Yes.
Jerry Mertel,
Yes.
Michael Towkett,
Yes.
Les Boatright.
Yes. And we'll go back on something you said about lowering cost. McDonald's is lowering the cost of their combo meals, so somebody's doing it.
Somebody's doing it. I'll have to check out how they're managing.
Exactly. Okay, so we got through that. Okay, now we're down to IPL. First item is an update on the AMI project. Manager?
So the update is we have chosen a candidate, and we've been in works with them with terms and conditions for a little bit. So caught up in legal back and forth, just making sure that we understand terms and conditions, and that's where it's at. Once we have that ironed out, then we can name, because if we can't come to terms and conditions, we'd have to pick another vendor. So I don't want to name it yet until we have that all ironed out, and then we'll be able to name it and make recommendations and move forward.
All right, sounds good.
Yep.
How about an update on summer storms?
Summer storms have been pretty difficult this year between the wind, the rain. We've had several rain events that have flooded out some of our vaults, in particular up on the square, that took power out to several businesses up on the square for a few days. And we're continuing to tackle those with the crews that we have. They do a great job. And also looking at our tree trimming program and making sure that we're staying on top of that. We're instituting some new LiDAR that will be able to look at that from a satellite imagery and be able to identify some hot spots before they become an issue. But we're continuing to work on it. Yeah, the summer storms, I don't remember if last time we talked if you needed some specific data, but
No, it was just, I was just more
been a-
curious about, how the system's been holding up, and do we have any issues that have arisen out of those that we've noticed?
we have found a few reliability issues that we are tackling to make it more resilient in some areas. Unfortunately, you don't want to find those when a tree's on it, but we have found a few opportunities to put in some more laterals in different areas to help cross-connect and increase our chances of being able to isolate when a storm does happen. So
Okay, good.
we are continuing to look at that, and then with our new system operations manager and new deputy director, we're looking at technology for reclosers and things like that that can detect on the system and do things automatically without having to have crews go out. And that's kind of in junction with AMI, right, when that does come.
Okay, all right, very good. Another one I had was any material concerns that we're gonna have going into fall and winter?
I don't have any concerns for materials on an O&M standpoint. It's more from the big project standpoint, I would say. Continuing on transformers and things like that we're still having long lead times and high costs on.
Yeah. I knew the lead times had really gone up on some of that.
Yeah, but I think the general material that we use for O&M for the everyday stuff, we're doing pretty good on staying in front of that, and I don't have any concerns for the winter.
Okay, all right, very good. And the last item here was the IPL and statistical charts.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
If you guys would look at the very last page of your packet, I included for you a comparison of average temperatures for June of 23, 24, and 25, what we're seeing on our charts. 24, the year 24, we had higher average temperatures than 23 and 25, which I think you will see when you're looking at your kilowatt usage. We are not too far below 24 and falling in line with 23 based on temperatures. There were a few things I would like to call out to you on your packet, page 32. One of our interruptible customers, which does usually end up with a higher monthly bill, had to be rebilled in the month of June. So that will, because of the timing, that billed revenue should pick up when we look at July. And when we're looking at your packet, page 34, we do have the updated 2025 customer counts. It looks like a steep drop in your commercial industrial, but I want to point out that is on a different axis, so your numbers are smaller. There's really showing about a 33 number decrease in that. And I wanted to point out that that is on billed accounts, not billed, like the bills that we create, not necessarily the account. So sometimes that can fluctuate year to year based on number of rebills or corrections. So it looks like a steeper drop in comparison to your residential, but it was about 33. And a slight uptick in residential customers for 2025 over 2024. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions on the statistical stuff here? We appreciate the information, though. Does kind of help with temperature and humidity to see how that impacts.
I do want to point out, on that very last page, she pointed out the temperatures. The second half of that is humidity. So probably a little known fact that I think it's in the neighborhood of 80% of the energy that your HVAC uses is to remove the humidity from the air and not to change the temperature. So when you have a really humid condition and you want to lower it 2 degrees, it's going to use the same energy as a less humid, lowering it 5 degrees, right? So
Okay, just has to work a little harder.
it does.
Okay, very good.
Just maybe to add on to that, on the operation side, that's something that we pay a lot of attention to is the feels like temperature, not just the ambient temperature, because if you look at thermal degradation of equipment, that feels like temperature has a correlation and kind of causation. When people feel hotter, they crank up their air conditioning, and the thermal protection that's inside of our transformers and conductors creates more wear on it. So we anticipate for us that we might have more failures on a high heat index type day. So looking at that humidity column is super important for us.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
you may.
Just a quick reminder, if everybody would lean into the microphone, make sure it's really close to their mouth. They're having a hard time hearing online.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, now we're down to Deputy City Manager.
I only have one new piece of information, and that is to just make you all aware, if you're not already, and you may be, I am no longer the Director of Municipal Services as of this Monday. Mike Jackson, former Deputy Director of Municipal Services, is returning to the department as Director, and we welcome him back, most definitely. Rich remains Deputy, as does Matt McLaughlin, and Zan McKinney is our Assistant Director. And so a little bit of a staffing change. You get an extra body at the meetings, and you don't have to listen to me for all the multiple reports instead. You get a fresh perspective, probably a little less sarcasm, you know.
Welcome back.
Yeah, we're very excited to have him. So just wanted to formally reintroduce him to the group.
Now, you were in HR before you came back, is that correct?
Yeah, I've been there the past roughly about a year,
Okay.
but I was with the department for the previous 5-6 years.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having your expertise back.
And I guess the group often asks about an update for the new Commons facility. So just to let you know, the second floor, which will house municipal services, part of IPL, and community development, we're getting ready to do a punch list on September 3rd. So the time for that floor being done is quickly approaching, which is very exciting to us as well. And then the third floor will follow that, and then 4, and then 1. So still 1 is, again, where customer service utility billing will be, and that will be the very last piece to move over. So just by way of update, everybody's still over this year. The last piece is coming over in November.
Okay, very good. We had on here too an update on the governance meetings.
There was the most recent update was the study session that's been a month or so ago to council. That the language for the charter revision is currently with Lauber being rewritten to scale back the actual charter change to the language that's required for just the governance model. And then we can look at a host of different things surrounding that by policy after the fact, but just to try and keep it really clear in the structure of how that's being set up.
Yeah, please watch the language that it's written in, because I was on the Charter Review Commission, and when we took the other stuff, I had no idea what those meant.
Gotcha.
They just were written in, I'm not even sure legalese is the right language, but
Well, and that is the point of our current request is just make it as clear as possible so it's easy to understand what changes are being made, what the structure of that new board would be, and then PUAB's continued role and things like that. So we're waiting to get those changes back before moving forward.
okay, I had a note from Mr. McLucky, who couldn't be here today, on the Citizens Advisory Council for IPL, continuing like the PUAB structure after, if the governance board moves forward, and there's a Citizens Advisory Council. And he had some proposed changes he wanted in there, or suggestions. And I'm not sure how the best way to do this. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, the document. I know he said like the purpose, membership, 7 members, delete not more than 15. I mean, that's quite a few if we can't even get 7 here,
Sure.
10, 15. He said delete the exceptions. Item 3 was appoint from president, CEO shall appoint to each council member shall appoint 1 CAC member. So, you know, like Mr. Fears over here would appoint somebody from his district rather than on the governance board, I guess, the president, CEO, or whoever that is picking them.
Right.
Election, the president, CEO shall appoint the chair and the vice chair to the CAC like we do now, selects our own chair and vice chair. Duties, delete all except provide recommendations and advise the electric utilities. I think right at first, they were talking about doing the PUAB just for IPL, or the CAC for IPL, and not get into the other utilities. And that was what he had. So I'll send these to you, Christina. I'll forward this to you. You may have gotten it already, I don't know. But we'll get it to
Can
you.
you
and-
copy me on that?
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
please?
I'll send it, and that way, and you can send it out to everybody here, just to kind of let them know what he was concerned about.
That'll work.
So is the intent of this to get it to the council?
I think it was
As
to
a
take a look
board?
at that document, and I'm not sure, you know, I think before he was talking about getting a motion from us or a recommendation to make those changes. But I think we need to look at the document. If they're not going, do you know when they're gonna do a vote on the governance for PUAB or whatever?
I don't. Part of it'll depend on when the charter changes come back for
Okay.
review.
I think we've got time to do it. I don't think it's gonna be done.
There's definitely time. There were discussions about taking that to a vote in November, but that's been pushed now to, the anticipated time to take that to the vote is in April.
Okay.
So
So
we've
we've
got a little bit
of
of
time,
breathing room.
so he should be back, and we'll make sure we get that worked in, and we can do it from a committee. He wanted me to make sure I mentioned those changes. Minor changes, but things he thought needed to be. Mr. Taggart?
Can I ask a question? The last time I read when they were doing the governance, in there, the last, or the current city manager, said that he took everything word for word out of Springfield for the, the part where the makeup of the board. And I noticed one change that was different from Springfield. Springfield says no board, there will be an even makeup of parties. So in other words, you got Republicans and Democrats, and there has to be equal member or equal amount, only 1 + 1. So in other words, if there's 6 of one, if you got 10 board members, there's 6 of one and 5 of the other. You can't have 8 of one party and 2 of the other, because you got to have a pretty diverse group of people so that you don't have decisions being made like one way all the time. So that's one thing that I'd appreciate if they could look at, because last one I saw when they put that out, that's the way it was. That was the one change that wasn't word for word from Springfield.
Okay,
So, okay, thanks.
thanks.
Okay, very good. It looks like we're down to board member comments. I've got something I want to throw out here before we get into everybody. The board and commission training that's tomorrow, August 22nd at 1:30 will be out at Midwest Risk, there at the corner by the Event Center, 19400 East Valley View Parkway. It says it will last approximately 2 to 3 hours. If you can't attend it, they're going to record it, and then they'll show it again, and you'll have to watch it with some popcorn or something, I guess. But if you can make that training tomorrow, it will help if you're on any other, this board, any other boards, commissions, whatever. They're requiring us to do that training, so that's tomorrow. Now I'll throw it open to anybody's comments. Seeing how that went over. Terry, you still with us?
Yep.
Okay. Evidently, she doesn't have anything either, so our next meeting is September 18th, 2025, 2:30 here in the Utilities Building. Looking to adjourn.
So moved.
He was moved. We're adjourned. Thanks.